Welcome today's Future Film Labs host, Matt Ajan.
Hello everyone, how's everyone doing? Amazing. It's a Saturday, so we need to be feeling good. I'm working on a Saturday, you guys are playing, so you guys should be feeling better than me. But welcome to the Future Film Lab. Today we're going to be focused on the on-set analysis. Just a quick question, how many people here have ever been on a film set? I can't hear anything. How many people here have been on a film set? A lot. Amazing, cool. Well, we've got an amazing panel, which I'm going to introduce shortly. But before that, just going to give you a bit of information. I'm going to start on a high. We've got a competition. Woo! You guys don't like competitions? Oh, perfect. I love this guy. We're going to get along. But yeah, we've got an amazing competition to win a hard drive sponsored by Lacey. So, oh, look, here you go. He's already won. He's won. You guys don't want to win. But it's going to be outside. You guys can get the opportunity to grab one. So make sure you look at the registration desk. And also, we've got another freebie for you. There's an event with BBC. Have you guys heard of the BBC? Yeah, all right, cool, amazing. But we've got an event on Monday where you can actually grab a free ticket from. So if you go to the desk, you can actually collect your ticket. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our amazing panel for today. There's no theme music, so you guys have to be the theme music. So we've got Ben, Jon, and Rosa. This is the part where everyone claps and goes crazy. Absolutely wild. So we're just going to get them to grab a seat. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Thank you.
So,
just switch off my phone.
yeah, go for it.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Just like when we could.
Yep, airplane. We're good.
So firstly, thank you guys for coming today. It's a Saturday and we really appreciate you leaving your lovely homes to spend some time with us. We're going to be speaking a lot about experiences on set, and there's a lot of filmmakers here who may have not been on set. So I guess the first place we're going to kick off is just to introduce yourself. So Rosa, go for it. Just tell us. Yeah. Putting you on the spot. You sat right next to me.
I'm the senior member of the panel, so I have been on set many times. Too many, maybe. And 4 years ago, I was as a line producer and several other things before. I think I have done some, well, you've all been able to read what I have done, so I have done quite a lot. And 4 years ago, I decided that it would be nice not to wake up, at 5 in the morning and having to drive to a car park. And I became an agent, or I was offered to become an agent. So, yeah, sorry for the briefness, but
No, that's right. We're gonna dig in. Don't worry.
I'm Jon, and I am a filmmaker, but also a producer, and run a film production company and social enterprise called Signature Pictures, which is all about introducing new talent to the industry. On every film we make, we provide traineeships in every department, and we've provided over nearly 250 people now with their first IMDb credits, so you're in the right place.
And I'm Ben, also work under the name Rvbberduck, and I run a production company with a bunch of YouTubers called After Party, and we make sort of higher end YouTube content, the glossier side of things, which is fun.
Okay, amazing. I'm just gonna dive in with the first question. What was your first set experience like, and how did it come into action?
with me?
Yeah, you sat right next to me, so now you got to set the tone.
Well, that was a long time ago, very long time. I don't know if you hear me. I'm Spanish, I'm from Barcelona, and when I was young, there were no film schools and no easy way to get into the industry. So I started in the industry quite late. There was a Catalan television that started, and I thought, I have to get there, because if not, I'll never work in, in films and TV. And so I stepped down and started really low, like a secretary, and slowly started a career in films. And maybe 8 years later, I was producing my first film as part of the media program, EAVE, which was it's a media program for entrepreneurs, so producers, and linking with people from different European countries, and that started me to, I thought, I cannot say in Barcelona, it's too small, and a few years later I moved to London and continued a career in the film industry. It was not easy because obviously you have to start again. Sometimes I had to sell, Spanish food at Borough Market, but I made it, and I've worked with, I think, wonderful directors, and I've been in sets all over the world. So, yeah.
So apart from the amazing weather at London, what actually attracted you to come here?
Well, I was really a fan of British films. I've always been more attracted to auteur filmmaking, so those were the days of Ken Loach's, and Mike Lee's, and so which reminded me a bit of all the, the 60s films of like the things like I don't know, Saturday Night, Sunday Morning, all these type of films which I also loved, and there was a fascination with London, maybe from my childhood also, and in the 60s that there was this kind of swinging London, and then I thought, I want to go and live there. I could speak English, so I was never attracted to LA. Okay. So for me, it was this type of cinema that I really liked.
Okay, amazing. John, what about yourself?
So I think my journey into the film industry is maybe quite indicative of a lot of people's kind of entry or barriers to entry, but is also relatively unique. I mean, I may not appear it now or sound like it, but I come from quite a working class family. My mum's a single mother, alcoholic father, but I loved movies. I really wanted to get into the industry, had no idea how. I didn't know anybody. But my mum, her boss's best friend was Roy Button at the time, who was senior VP of Warner Brothers for Europe. And this was at the time that they were making Harry Potter at Leavesden Studios, so quite close to where I was growing up. And so on that work experience week at school, she asked her boss, to ask Roy Button if I could go and have work experience in the production office on Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And so as a 15-year-old, arrived into this kind of magical wonderland that actually blew my mind. And from that moment on, I was kind of determined that I would gain a career in the film industry. And from that moment, stayed in contact with the production coordinator there, Winnie Wishart. 7 years later, having completed a degree in film and literature at the University of Warwick, I asked Winnie if there's any kind of production roles available, and she was able to kind of fit me into the camera department there. So I mean, that's insane. That's how I accessed kind of my first opportunity in the film industry, and that's kind of incredible, really, because you couldn't manufacture that circumstance. And then just, sorry to kind of like hog the mic a little bit, but that first experience was a lot of different things. Again, really eye-opening. It was almost like a master's in kind of film production, understanding all the different things that contributed towards the making of a film. But it was also incredibly difficult. I didn't have anybody prepare me for what that would be like. I turned up for my first day in the camera department wearing nice shoes, got laughed at, and then was ineffectively bullied for 9 months, and was the only person to last in that department for all 7 films, to do a whole contract. And that really inspired me to set up the production company that I do now, which is Signature Pictures, which is kind of about providing opportunity to unemployed and at-risk young people and create a different type of film production. So that's my journey into the film industry.
Super. What about yourself, Ben?
So I had a very weird route into it. My sister got a camcorder back in 2007 for Christmas that she didn't really want, and she left it on the side, and my friend Joe, one day we were hanging out, and he was like, let's make a film. And so we went and made a film in my back garden, and went and showed it in class, and then we sort of did that every week. We'd go and make another film and show it in class and do that, and then got to 16, didn't want to go to uni, just wanted to make films, so tried to get a job, and no one would hire me because no one hires 16-year-olds to like go and stand and hold a camera. No one told me that at the time. And so I was sort of emailing these people being like, let me come and film your stuff, and they were like, no. And then went to did my AS levels, and then went and left and worked in the post room an ad agency because no production company would hire like an under 18-year-old to come and stand on set because of insurance. And worked there, and it was the best job because I just sort of did it because I was like, I just want to work. I don't want to go to uni. And meanwhile, I was sort of spending weekends and evenings and on as many sets as I could and running and doing all sorts. And sort of was delivering people's ASOS packages around the building at this ad agency and pestering people, being like, let me let me come on your sets. And eventually one day someone relented and let me on. It was like a Barclays Red Nose Day shoot or something like that. And I made the coffees for everyone as usual. And yeah, it was like, that's what I want to do. And so then, yeah, I kind of realised that's what I wanted to do, left the sort of 9 to 5 world and was like, I'm just going to throw myself into this. Became a camera assistant and did that for like 9 months or something like that. Was sort of camera assistant. And then when I met the YouTuber Calux, who then we started the company together. But yes, it was kind of like that route in through. I didn't study as such. I just sort of spent all the weekends and evenings sort of trying to get onto a set that I could, and then eventually someone let me on, and then I took it from there and just spoke to loads of people.
Okay, super. So all your experiences onto set seem quite varied. And Rosa, you mentioned that you started quite late. This is an open question to all of you. What kind of barriers do you feel like there are to getting on set? And from your own personal experiences, was it paid? Was the first experience paid? Was it fun? Could you?
Well, I prefer to talk not from my personal experience because it's a bit removed from yours because of my age and so on, but from my experience in films.
Yeah.
And as I say, I've worked, over 30 films. I think firstly is you have to be very, very committed, because one of the problems with filming is that it's you don't have a job all the year round. They come and then maybe you have 3 weeks, or maybe if you're lucky 3 months work, and then you never know when your next job is going to come. So there is a commitment, and unfortunately sometimes some people cannot have this commitment because obviously the money and everything is quite difficult. But I just think if you really want something, and if you're passionate, and here we have things happen. I mean, it's always very much a question of luck, but also you have to look for your own luck. You cannot stay home and just say, maybe I'm lucky. No, you have to go there and then really do it, and maybe you'll become lucky and try many different avenues. And it's not easy, but I've seen. And once you get the chance, then you have to be 100%, because I've seen people.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to wear your nice shoes.
No, you don't. I think
you want to be ready, no?
There is for me. There's a number of barriers, but it depends upon what you want to do. Do you mind if I ask the audience just a quick question?
Go for it, mate.
I just wondered, and if I need to explain this term, let me know. But how many of you are sort of wanting to work above the line, and how many of you are wanting to work below the line? So above the line being the directors, producers here, maybe actors and writers as well, and then below the line crew. So who's above the line? Okay, and then who's like below the line? So camera, art, makeup, hair, etc.
Many very.
So depending on where you want to go, there are a number of barriers. The first is that the industry generally, and production especially, is like Rosa was suggesting, is based upon kind of like hard work and commitment, and as such, crews very much like to work with people that they know and that they trust. That's kind of where the sort of who you know aspect of it comes from. And so actually getting that first experience can be the most difficult, but then you have to show that kind of commitment to the department and to the film so that they trust you and they'll take you on to the next production. But getting that first opportunity can be very, very difficult. If you don't know somebody or if you haven't been to film school. And therein lies the other barrier to entry, which is that the formal routes are very expensive, and they can be. And even if you don't go to film school and you want to work in crew full time, well then you're going to need to be prepared to either work for free above the line when you're starting out on projects, and even when you're doing your first few jobs, don't expect to be paid. That's crazy. But it's true. And then also being a freelancer. For a lot of people, most people that work in crew and below the line are freelancers. So you have to understand how to do tax returns, how to do cash flows, all of these other kind of base skills that aren't provided by the film industry. So there are loads of barriers, basically, to starting out.
Well, we're going to talk about how to overcome those barriers as well, so don't be too afraid.
Bad news. I think similarly, the first one that I came up against, like I say, was age. Was that when and I couldn't see it at the time. I was so blind to it that I was like 15 and being like, take me onto your set and like let me film your feature film. And like no, like it's not going to happen. Mainly because I was never told at school like what a camera assistant was. I didn't know that was a thing before you became like a director of photography. I didn't know before you became a director you was a runner then an AD and worked your way up. No one told me that. But yeah, so I think Ajan, I was sat in a meet. I remember back at BBH, I was sat in a meeting with the like head of the production team, and she said to me, I was 17 at the time, and she said to me, look around at this department, everyone here is 25 and above. We're not going to hire you. So I was like, but that kind of made me just want to work harder because I was like, okay, cool, I'll see you. I'll be on one of these desks in like 6 months or so. So there's that side of it, and then there's obviously the money side of it is that you're going to get like badly paid jobs to start with, and like I did loads of like free work and loads of underpaid stuff, but. Funnily enough, all my best contacts who I work with now still and who I do stuff with are the ones from the worst paid jobs.
Yeah, same.
Because you find on the like badly paid stuff, it's the people that are doing it for their love. Like when you're there at 2 a.m. on some beach somewhere on the British coast and it's raining and everyone's hating life, all this, and no one's getting paid. Everyone is there for the love of just making stuff. And so that's how you sort of take that barrier to entry of like money and be like, how do I just use that to my advantage?
And But one thing I wanted to mention is what you were talking about below the line and above the line. You know, I represent below the line crew and HODs, but if you want to be a director, you have to understand, you know, what a film set is, and nobody is going to hire you unless you're super talented and you do a short. But normally, it's always convenient also to work on a film set to see what the challenges are and, you know, what you're going to be asking your crew the day you're directing. You understand where, you know, where things come from. So I think that everybody should start.
Yeah, you'll be a better filmmaker for all the experience you gain, rather than just holding out for that kind of like dream opportunity or for something to land in your lap. You should try and get onto as many crews as possible.
Even as a writer, don't you think so?
Yeah,
because
totally.
I've read so many scripts which say, oh my God, they don't know how much this costs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the cost of, you can write and it can be whatever, and then so they will never afford it and this will never happen. So I think as a writer also to see how much it costs and, you know, to...
And I think you've also like, if you're doing it and if you're knocking on these doors and you're not getting the answers, you kind of have to try and take a step back and figure out why not, because there's probably something you're doing slightly wrong. There's like something that always sticks in my head is that when I found out what a camera assistant was, I was trying to get work with other camera assistants below them as their trainee, and I'd email like 100 a day for like over the course of a couple of weeks, and no one was replying. I couldn't understand. I was like, this is really frustrating. And then I got a reply from one late one night that absolutely tore me to pieces, where she was like, my name was the only thing in a different font in this email. Like, I can tell you've copied and pasted it. Don't do that. And basically, like, step by step, like, destroyed what I'd done. And then I was like, oh, like, instead of emailing like 300 camera assistants, I'll email 10 and I'll write a personal email, and I got a reply.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's that. I think that you can. I speak to a lot of people who are like, I can't get onto a set, and it's like you're doing something wrong.
I think as well, like, obviously for those of you that are above the line, like the film industry began and continues to be based upon an entrepreneurial spirit. Like especially if you're above the line, like, you know, you have to go out and make shit. Like, that's sort of what you have to kind of do. But there is also a responsibility upon the productions that are happening now and upon all of us as filmmakers to provide as many opportunities as possible. And I think that's where we come in, but also that's still the onus is still on all the other productions kind of happening around the country to provide more opportunity. But you still then have to go out and make stuff.
Okay.
Sorry, can I just add something? It's funny because both of you started on the camera department, and having been, you know, a line producer, and which means, I don't know if you know what a line producer is, but normally you're the person that does the budget, you're responsible for everything, you know, in the shoot. And everybody wanted to go to the camera department. Very few people wanted to work in production. So, or they wanted to be on set and direction. So production was sometimes we were struggling to find runners and to find people that would come and do that, because nobody wanted to be at the office, where you also learn a lot. So
I think it's also that you don't know that exists. Like, it's kind of on yourself to like go and figure out go and look at the credits of like a film and see all the roles that you have no idea what they mean, like, and go and pick one of them jobs, because that's an easier way in than sort of being like.
When I was like a lot younger, in the process of like developing Signature Pictures out of work, claiming at the job centre, like with grand ambition, I was going around to post-production houses in Soho, speaking to, like, when they still existed, I'm not sure they do anymore, like Real Skill, to find out how much it would cost to cut film, like, so that, because I didn't have a line producer friend, I was finding out what the costs of everything were, so that I could put together my feature film budget and then, pitch it to the BFI. So it's that there's a sort of lack of provision in terms of basic kind of education, in terms of what's available, and also provision to kind of get started if you don't have like the money just to kind of keep things going. I think the key barriers.
Okay, so for all three of you, you guys have had quite interesting journeys, and you talk about below and above the line. Like, what was the transition for you three? Was there like a pivotal moment where you was able to transition into your next step?
My next step from what? From below?
So when you first started in the industry and you went on to being a producer, working with other companies, doing larger productions?
Well, for me, it was always an attachment to the directors. I mean, I've always been below the line because, a line producer could be considered above the line, but I think I'm below the line because I am part of the crew. I'm someone that is hired to do a film. In Spain, I was producing, but that I found that really, really tough because you never know when you were going to get the money for your next film. And being a single mom, I had to do lots of things on the side to be able to, to pay the rent and so on, translations and so on. So when I moved to this country, I decided that it was better to be a gun for hire. And I was very lucky because I knew Ken Loach's producer from when he shot Land and Freedom in Spain, and I had done a little job for them. So on my first year here, I did a film for a Spanish company, and then I was asked to go and work on a Ken Loach film in Nicaragua because they needed someone which could speak Spanish and understood the Spanish crew. Yeah. So that was a very good opportunity for me. And later, some years later, I worked at their offices, and I think that my big break came when I met Roger Michel, which is a director, and Kevin Loder, and they wanted to do a film with very little money, and Roger had just done, Notting Hill and films like this, and he says, I want to do something a bit like the French or the European style with little money, no lights, or the Dogma style. And then we did a film called The Mother with Daniel Craig. Okay. And from there, I think I've done with them maybe 7 films, but always small and without having this kind, or most of the time small. And that for me was what changed basically my career here, because then once you work with a very well-known director, as a line producer, as the person at the top, not with Ken Loach, in which I was producer's assistant. Having been a producer in Spain and having had films in Venice or so, but sometimes just have to step down to be able to go further up. So that was
amazing.
Quite lucky.
No, it's not luck. You put the work in.
So I finished. To continue the Jon Max Spatz story, I finished on Harry Potter. Wasn't going to be hired again by them for the 7th film, so I was signing on at the time of the financial crisis. This is like 2008, and obviously went there and was like, oh, actually I've worked on a film, maybe I'd like to do that. And they obviously said computer, said no. And then, but considering my experience on this film set, where you have almost every profession you can possibly think of, from accountancy to catering and everything in between that you all know about, I just thought it was absolutely crazy that there wasn't more opportunity available. So went away from that, set up Signature Pictures as a company with the express purpose to provide opportunity within film production to unemployed young people. So returned to the job centre as a kind of like sole trader, but under the auspices of Signature Pictures, which designed into this thing that didn't really exist. And then pitched it to the head of partnerships at the job centre to partner with us. And they did. which allowed me to get some seed funding to make our first film and my first professional film, which was Belle. And on that first film, we took on 13 unemployed young people into every department. And the film itself, and then I realised that I had to pitch this, basically. I had to pitch the company, I had to use the film, and so you did a kind of screening night at the ICA. Also, that film was like, I think I always, whenever I work with trainees, I always say you'll have your death film, the film that almost kills you, where you risk everything, where first time you have money on the line, first time that you spend on credit cards, first time that you're like working with professional crew. We shot in our flat where I was living at the time. I got kicked out on the last night because we had someone naked running around in black paint. Got it on everything. Like, they asked me to leave immediately. I'd spent all my money. I had to like call my friend who lent me £1,000. You know, this is whilst the job centre are like, oh, how are the trainees doing? I'm like, oh my fucking God. And then pitched, and then basically put on a night at the ICA where I invited all the industry I could possibly do, as well as some high net worth individuals, and pitched the business using the film. And was then able to get further investment, including a business partner, to kickstart this program properly. So I'd say the thing that really changed, again, was sort of risking everything, which is not to suggest that you should do that. Again, if you're above the line, you sort of need to. But yeah, that's when things really changed. Like, standing up in front of 250 people, you know, as a 25, 26-year-old, putting on a film and selling yourself and your business is like hugely pressurized, and that was the moment where everyone started to take what we were doing seriously, and it's just grown from there. So that for me was the moment.
Okay.
Probably on one of those jobs that I was saying about that was like grossly underpaid. It was this 3-week commercial that I was a camera assistant on for KFC, and it was 12. It sounded, they sold it in to me like 12 countries in 21 days. It'll be great.
Amazing.
It'll be amazing. What it turned out to be was like 18-hour shoot days, up a mountain in Bosnia often, and changing cards and charging batteries and chasing a crew around, and like some moody talent who kind of didn't want to be there. And yeah, I kind of was locked away in a bedroom changing cards and charging batteries and stuff. And then on the last day, I got talking to the YouTuber who was presenting the show. We hadn't spoken for the whole 3 weeks because I was like his talent, and I'm very separate from that. And yeah, I got talking, and then came back to London and started talking about let's like work together. And then then this door suddenly opened. So it was like that job. I almost said no to the job. Glad I didn't. And because I was like, this is just works out per day. I'm like losing money essentially. And then because I did that and met this guy, and it's just about talking to people on these sets, because I also see a lot of people come onto like our sets who just keep themselves and that. But like, you'll meet people who will open doors for you that you couldn't imagine. And then he basically was like, let's work together and open this door to these guys who have millions of subscribers and money, and people want to work with them and stuff, and they didn't really know how to make anything, so it sort of all slotted in together.
Okay, so from your journeys now, it seems like you're in a position to give more opportunities for young people to get on set. How many emails do you roughly get asking for requests to get on set, favours? I know you're working at an agency now, so like, what does your inbox look like, and what is the percentage of emails you actually reply to?
Oh, my inbox. It's a problem, emails. I still love the phone. We do get a lot of inquiries, but they don't all come directly to me. And obviously, we try to nurture talent, and every year we take a few, people that are starting. But obviously, you can only push so much new people, because you really have to make a big effort, because everybody comes for your top DOP or for your top editor, and then you say, you want Jake Roberts that got Hell or High Water, but I say there is this very, very lovely young guy. No, sorry.
No,
Thank you very much. So you just can only do like maybe one of each department per year, because sometimes it takes more, and this is, for someone that has passion to start young people and new people, because I mean, that's what where really you get a satisfaction, is when you make a difference for someone. And we have done so. But, yeah, and people come from different... So, for example, we have now a young production designer that has done a big series for HBO, and he had, he came from being an assistant art director and an art director. So which was what I was saying, that you have to go your way up. Now have this young editor, which we just signed, called Rvbberduck Nichetti, which I'm about to get him his first film. He's an FTS graduate, but he's only 23, so I'm excited. But mostly people have been like assisting, whatever, in costume or in camera, or so they just don't suddenly become a DOP.
Yeah, they work their way up.
Yeah, they were up. But I really try to push the career of, younger people, or sometimes also of people that have not worked for a while because they've been, they had children and now they have to go back. So it's a combination.
Okay.
My inbox, well, I mean, every film we make, we have trainees on. So every department, we take on unemployed and at-risk young people. So my inbox, there's a process by which we recruit the trainees for each of our shoots. But I mean, I get a lot of emails, but at the same time, our company is set up to provide opportunities expressly for new entrants. So it's something that's built into the kind of the DNA of what we do. In terms of like an advice about it, I mean, I've got 6 shoots to do before the end of March. Like,
Get in contact.
Interested, yeah.
Anyone interested by any chance?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends. It depends upon what you want to do. But the thing for us is that there's no requirement. We don't ask for any qualifications to begin in film production. We only ask that people are willing to work hard. And, by virtue of you guys being here, you're probably not right for our opportunities in some ways, because we're actually trying to find the people that really, have less hope. Because film, as you all know, and as you'll find out, I'm sure, filmmaking can be completely transformative. So often we're trying to find those most in need. The last film we did, half of the young people were homeless. 3 of them were on tag. So we are providing opportunities to bright, exciting talent, and often we will fund movies for the above the line people here that are wanting to make their splash, because you've got the aptitude to do it, whereas our trainee opportunities are maybe for more people that really, really, really need the help in a different way. But my inbox is always open. That's the other thing to say.
Yeah, it's difficult. So because we work, pretty much everything we do is with YouTubers and with online talent. It's a bit of a sort of nightmare trying to sift through that and figure out who just wants to come and meet their favourite YouTuber and who actually wants to come and get on a set. Have a bit of a tactic of sort of being I reply to every email, so we get about probably 10 a week or something like that from people sort of trying to get onto sets. Reply to everyone and sort of send them away and be like, we're busy at the minute, but give me an email in 2 weeks and let's have a coffee or something like that. And I try and meet up with people and see if they email back. And they rarely do, because most of them are just trying their luck. But I got an email this morning from a guy who I'll meet up next week, who was like, you said 2 weeks ago to email you and go for a coffee. So I think it's, I want to do more stuff, and that's what I was speaking to Jon before this, that we're gonna do some more stuff together. But yeah, certainly you can tell from someone's email. Like I say, when I emailed the camera assistant many years ago, and she saw right through me that I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, make it personal.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that there's a way of going about it,
and also understand that people have a small amount of time. Mm-hmm. So if you're just saying to us, "I love what you guys do," would be great to kind of meet and talk more. That's great. That's all we need. Yeah. Big long emails, loads of attachments. It's just I'm not going to read that. But just to introduce yourself and say that you want to meet and what you're ultimately looking to do is enough, I think.
And some sort of direct, knowing what if you're like, oh, I'm really interested in like the camera department, can I talk to you about being a camera trainee on one of your shoots, rather than just being like, I like what you do, can I come and do something? Is like, you need to kind of direct it.
I had the opportunity once. Oh, this actually makes me cringe inside so bad. I had the opportunity once to go and work for Zoetrope, Zoetrope, Von Trier's, company, because my friend from uni was his PA effectively. And she was like, okay, yeah, what would you like to do? And I'm like, oh my God, this is the greatest opportunity ever. And the stupidest response I've ever given is, I'll do anything.
Yeah.
It's like, what is that?
Yeah.
You know, like, I should have been like, I just should have said anything else.
That's a good point. So specialise. So you need to, that's the other thing that I learned the hard way, is that if you go and be the guy that can shoot, edit, direct, and like do your lighting and make the coffee, like, it's great to start off with and to get your foot and to meet people, but when you're approaching people, you need to approach a producer wanting to work in producing in that line of work, or a camera department. Like, don't email a DOP wanting to be a makeup artist or something like that, because like or like saying that you did everything. Yeah, they don't care, and you just need to. You kind of have to specialize a bit and go into one direction.
But making good coffee, it's always a good thing.
Yeah.
What you said before, because that's where you start. Okay.
Yes. Camel.
And that's
Camel is the perfect colour for tea. That was what Winnie on Potter.
And, you just get to know people, or the cast, or so sometimes the humblest of the jobs, gets you in touch with some of the top people, because you're doing coffee only for the top people.
Yeah, and be
not for the middle people. They do their own coffee.
Be two steps ahead of them. Know when they're gonna. Don't wait for them to ask you to make a coffee, because that completely defeats the object.
That's important.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next feature lab will be on coffee making, so make sure you do attend. I'm going to ask one more question before I throw it out to the audience. So, all your experiences, what would you say is the little do's and don'ts for someone the first time on set? Like, obviously, don't come late. Is there, say thank you after?
Yes.
Like, what are the little
things? Don't come late, and then be prepared to run, I mean, that's what I was saying, when you were saying the thing of the white shoes. It's like you have to be prepared to do everything. I remember once we had this work experience person, because I have given a lot of opportunities to many people, through my career, and some have done really well, but that guy had this little bag, and he was all the time going with a little bag, and it's just like that. I thought, leave it and just run. And he was kind of, I don't know what he had there, but it was, you just have to be like ready to do whatever, and as you say, very aware of what's going around. You cannot just be like watching and talking to the security guy, you just have to be no chatting, no hang. So
On my first set experience,
a soldier.
I mean, on my first set experience on Potter, I wore really nice. Like, we were shooting night shoots, and for some reason I hadn't thought about the fact that I might need a scarf, and was so cold I had to take my socks off my boots and wrap them around my neck. Like, I was so bad. And then also because I hated the crew that I was working with, I ended up just talking to the cast. Like, me and Dan would hang out. And just, and it's just the worst. I mean, everything I did, I could write a book on all the things that I did terribly wrong on that production that I could give to you and it would sort you out. But I've also written an A to Z of do's and don'ts on a film set. So I've got an A to Z of things that you should and shouldn't do, which we give out to our trainees before they arrive, because we do like 2 days classroom training. So, there are loads of things, but I think, as kind of been mentioned, like being approachable, not being afraid to ask questions, listening, approaching each day like everybody else is having a worse day than you. Like, so always being kind of like positive in junior positions is really, really key.
Yeah, well, sorry to interrupt, but having been, in production, one of the things that sometimes sets are a mess because people throw, and just to be cleaning up, or doing little things like this, don't you think that just make a difference?
Keeping busy, like...
Yeah, but I mean, some people don't care, they just leave, oh, you can do this. So it's like that, those things really help, and which is what you were saying.
And whichever department you're in as well, like it
doesn't matter,
Yeah, I think, the same thing as before, like thinking a step or two ahead, doing everything faster than anyone expects you to do it. So like, if someone wants coffee, make sure they're not like, where's that coffee at? Or like, if you pop to the shops, like no one on film sets like waiting for anything. Yeah. So doing it well, fast, properly, and like, being approachable. And then also like, sort of making yourself, if you're a runner, there's this weird like line of like, don't go like pestering the crew the whole time, but at the same time don't be like the weird runner in the corner who no one talks to.
Yeah. This is the interesting thing though as well. I think that like there's a lot of expectation on you to do and to do something or to not do something, and actually a lot of the expectation should be on the crew. This is what we invest in films that take on our trainees. And to do that, they have to convince us that they're willing to take on the trainees and they understand the process. And we give the crew like details about the trainees, what potentially their barriers are, etc., so that the crew know who they're dealing with, and so that their attitude changes. Because it's not, it shouldn't just be taken as writ that you can be an arsehole if you're a grip. Like it's just, that's not how it should be. So all of these things are absolutely true, but we're also working on the other end to make crew more aware of the requirements of certain people that they're working with, and that's only necessary if we're democratizing access, because you're going to have more varied people accessing the opportunities within film. So it's a two-way thing, but all of this is very true.
Yeah, okay. We'll work with a lot of people who are really ignorant, and you just kind of have to like see it for what it is and get through it.
John, you mentioned the idea of never being afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
So now we're going to put it to the audience and get them to ask some questions. So I'm sure you guys have got a lot of questions. So just raise your hand and go for it. I've got a lady. Is there a Roman mic, or you can just shout? Oh yeah, go for it.
So if you were sorting out your first job on a film set or your first experience, where would you go to look for that sort of opportunity?
Good question. Back in the day, I mean, because I think things might have changed a little bit now to how when I was looking for opportunities. Obviously, I've given you how I started, which is insane, right? But then the other ways were like, so Mandy, Talent Circle, Film London Connect, all of these kind of, I don't know whether that's really still a thing. But I assembled my first crew for Bell through Mandy. And also put myself out there as available to work for free on any kind of short films. So there are loads of forums and things like that available.
It's so easy now. I mean, before it was much harder because you have to write letters, go and hand them to the production companies. But now I think that there is, you can go online and there are lots of ways in which you can access. And I represent, for example, a costume designer, which was someone that had been a stylist for Harper's Bazaar and things like this, but she wanted to get into drama, and she was doing it like this, and she's done a lot. She did a lot of films for free, and everything was online. Yeah. So there is this opportunity, and I think, and as you were saying, you get a camera, you can do it. Oh my God, before you could not even, it was so hard because you had to, everything was on film, and you had, but now there's so many opportunities. I mean, really, I just feel that...
Shooting People, Film London Connect, Talent Circle, Mandy.
Facebook,
yeah.
So many Facebook. Especially if you're in London, which you all are, is that there are so many Facebook groups that are just like London freelancers or like London runners and stuff like that, where I see stuff all the time. I'm still in all the groups, so I see all the stuff. And there are loads of producers in there who drop jobs in. And
if you're unemployed and aged between 18 and 24, Signature Pictures.
Any further questions? Go for it.
Get a mic and just hold on for the mic, because you deprived me of the mic. You can just raise your hand for the question.
just this guy here.
Just there, just in the middle.
No.
Shout, use your voice.
What's the best thing you've ever done that you haven't got credit for?
Wow, good question. Well, something that really killed me after my experience on Harry Potter is that I had this whole experience, went to the premiere at the Leicester Square, which obviously is awesome, and then my name wasn't in the credits. And like after the experience of that film, I was just like, I was with my girlfriend at the time. I felt really emotional about it. I gave so much to that film. That I ended up speaking to Warner Brothers, and they're like, "Oh no, it'll be on the DVD." I'm like, "Great, yeah, brilliant." So that I'll have another think, but that was like one. I mean, I wasn't great on that, so maybe I didn't deserve it. But yeah.
give you a hug after the session. Sorry to hear that. But
I can't think of anything. I can't think of. I mean, a majority of stuff that, like music videos and stuff like that you work on, no one ever knows that you've ever worked on it. The majority of stuff. I think I've done one thing in my life that's had credits. Everything else you sort of do, and you do it because the people you work with know you've done it, and kind of not for the, like, no one knows if you've camera assisted on a music video, but you watch it and you know it's in focus, so you're like,
Yes.
I did good. Yeah.
Oh, well, once I did a film which I was not graded because I was kind of fired.
Oh. Okay.
Well, no, not really, not me, the
Yeah.
company, you know, because the director was really, really hard and he just wanted to be on his own and get all the money. And but then I met the accountant of that film, which is a British guy, you know, was very, very instrumental when I moved to the UK to help me find jobs by putting me in touch with film financiers, you know,
Okay.
recommending me. Do you know what film financiers is? It's a bond company that bonds films. It's like an insurance to make sure that the film is delivered. And so something which was a bad experience became a good one because I met someone that thought that, you know, I had done a very good job and it was not my fault that later, many years later, the director apologized. But
Okay. There was a question around here.
To what extent do you think it's safe to say that filmmaking is like a kind of seasonal business, and like would you say that there are kind of sort of off times and sort of like busier times, and when would you say it's maybe like the easiest or maybe most accessible time to sort of find work and kind of get into those first roles? Like when, like at what points in the year do you think that companies are the busiest?
I think there's a couple of things to this. Like, we're lucky to be working in the film industry in this country whilst everything else is going on. It's a boom industry. People are making stuff all the time. It depends what type of films like you might be wanting to kind of get involved with, but summer's always busy.
well, I would think now putting my line producer hat or producer hat, I always thought that for lower budget films or things that were smaller, the winter was a better time because in summer, everybody wants to shoot in summer. While in winter, sometimes you can get better deals because the camera companies don't have so much business, so they can give you a better deal. It's easier to, you can find crew which are not so busy. I mean, that is if you want to make your film as a director, then people are less busy in winter and you can get better deals. But it's, it could be the summer because you need lots of light.
From my perspective, like online stuff, there isn't really, it's not seasonal. There's like never a time where people aren't making stuff. And it's very fast paced and everything's very reactive. So there's like at the minute, like even this week's busy, but like this next week where everyone's out for Christmas drinks is about the only week off that we have all year.
Yeah, we're making a movie a month pretty much at the moment. So, yes, I think there's an opportunity all year round. Ultimately, I think.
Yeah, but anyway, it was just a thought.
Yeah. No, it's true.
We've got two questions on the far end on that side.
This is a question for Rosa. You mentioned that you've got your own agency. I'm beginning to set up my own talent agency.
Oh.
Competition, eh?
Yeah, well,
No,
I mean, it doesn't have to be competition.
Not at all.
Yeah, we can work together.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I don't know if you represent like clients from like outside of Britain, and if you do, what kind of challenges have you found? And do you think that you are going to be like majorly affected by the Brexit decision?
Good question. Well, I don't have my own agency. I work for a very reputed small family agency, which is Cassarotto. So we represent people like Steve McQueen or Terry Gilliam. So I only do the part of below the line. And there is more, because there is so busy, as you say, there is more place for other agencies, because obviously you cannot represent many people. There is just an amount of people that you can represent, because it's really busy and it implies a lot of work. And yes, we represent people mostly from the European Union. And we don't know what is going to happen with Brexit. But I mean, I don't know in our business, I don't know personally, because I don't know if I'll have to go back to Barcelona, but the challenge is to make them known. I mean, now everybody loves Scandinavian DOPs, but maybe it's harder to get a Spanish DP there. And I represent someone which I think is amazing, even has a Goya Award, he's won Sundance, he's won San Sebastian, and people don't know him because maybe they don't see so much the stuff he has done, while, everybody's seen the Scandi Noir series and things like this. So I represent Hungarian people, I represent a Romanian DOP. So I think because many people go and shoot in Eastern Europe, I thought, well, it could be a possibility of business to represent people there and to say, don't bring your DOP from the UK, just you get someone local. It's not easy.
I think it again. One, the government is going to continue to want to support the film industry, and all governments want to support the film industry because of the supply chains. So I don't think you'll see a huge impact, really. And there isn't a literal wall going up. Like, people will still be able to travel. And much of
we don't know. I mean, to be honest, we don't know, because we don't know what's going to happen.
I mean, I've got a trip planned to Venice in May, and I'm going. But I think that obviously we don't know. But I think
we don't know.
The attitude is, for me, is just push.
I mean, if obviously today they were saying you have to earn. I was, on Today program that you have to earn more than a certain amount to be able to work here, and so it's all speculation at this stage. But on the other side of a question, it's hard sometimes to sell people which are not from the UK, but we do it. I now have a Hungarian costume designer, which, fingers crossed, might be nominated for awards. She did Colette, and a great job. So, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to add? You good? Okay, super. I'm going to have to use the cheesiest line ever for Brexit. We're going to have to exit the panel because we've actually run out of time for the panel. However, they will be floating around after, or some of them will be.
Yeah, I will.
I have to run, but my email address, here goes, is jms@signaturepictures.co.uk. So I welcome anyone to email me. And the other thing I just wanted to say as like a little bit of advice, just before we go, is you can find yourself channeled through certain organisations for opportunities, and you have to look elsewhere. You cannot, and I think this is going to be especially true maybe after Brexit, but you can't rely on public funding, and you need to kind of like look as widely as you can for opportunity, basically. That's it.
Okay, perfect. Can I have a massive round of applause for our panel, please?
You too.
Oh, thank you. Cheers. And yourselves, we're sharing that round of applause. But the fun doesn't stop there. We've got a film we're going to be screening, so we're just going to get that prepared. I'm going to invite Moses to the stage, just to introduce his film. So another round of applause for Moses, please.